Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to the Honest Business Podcast. If this is your first episode you're listening to, welcome. And if you are someone who's listened from the very start, welcome back. And if you're somewhere in between that, then hello as well. Today, hopefully, I'm going to give you a permission slip to stop feeling guilty and to stop stressing and to enjoy business more. We are going to just talk about a really simple, relaxed, fun episode about things I think that you can stop feeling guilty about in your business, because we all need to stop feeling so guilty and we all need to not worry so much. And I'm just going to reel off some things that you don't need to feel guilty about anymore, because I think as human beings we kind of automatically assume the worst a lot of the time, or make ourselves feel bad or judge ourselves, and that doesn't need to be the case. So grab a drink, chill out, and I will run you through these points. So this first one's an absolute biggie. I think a lot of people think that this is a bad thing. So you don't have to feel guilty if you do things last minute in your business. I think sometimes people think to be a good business owner, you have to have everything planned months and months in advance in terms of your social media and your sales pages and this thing and that thing. It's yeah, that would be great. And don't get me wrong, core strategic planning is incredibly important. I love that. Knowing what you're doing from a high level is important. But I am a believer that doing last things in your business is not a bad thing. And it can actually be amazing for energy. Business energetics is really important. And often when we're trying to sell something, or you're going into launch, or you're doing something that requires an exertion of energy, sometimes that last minuteness of things can really get everybody going and get you jazzed up for it. And you're yay. And we have a balance of this in the business where we have some stuff that is pre-done and scheduled, and for example, some emails will be scheduled for a whole year for clients or for certain programs and things like that. I really I like that, understanding that it's there and it's done and it's okay. But there is also parts of my business where we do things last minute. We do kind of run on the adrenaline of it. Now, part of that, yes, we'd love to have enough resource where that doesn't happen, or maybe it's done a week before, for example. But I just want to give you permission that you are not a bad business owner if you are someone who reacts kind of last minute. Now, a lot of you might resonate with, being neurodivergent. You might find certain characteristics inside of yourself or your personality that really lend itself to procrastination or leaving things to the last minute and that sort of thing. And if that's you, maybe learn to lean into it and learn to not beat yourself up about it, because many people are last minute.comers. I think as long as it doesn't affect client experience, then you're okay. Now, obviously, there's always an argument of, well, if you do X, Y, and Z, is that impacting it? And I suppose the argument could be yes. And what we try and do in the business is try and make sure that, and it always sort of happens where everything that is sort of client impact dependent is normally done pretty much 99% of the time ahead of time and planned, and then the other stuff is the stuff that we tend to sort of leave last minute or bounce around on. But it's important to say, if you've got a busy time of year or something's happened in your business, you've had an influx of clients, or your business has grown a lot sort of overnight or within a short space of time, it might be that you're doing things last minute because you haven't had any other time, and that's okay. Number two, the next thing you can stop feeling guilty about in your business is that if you struggle to manage all your emails or DMs, or you feel I haven't responded to them, or I've left this person on read, or I just don't know where to turn, that's okay if you struggle with that. Obviously, anything client delivery, you kind of need to sort that out. But I'm assuming for most people, that's an obvious. What I think most people feel guilty about is those the excess of emails that we get that are just constant here, there, everywhere, different pieces of the puzzle. And I just want to remind you that it's okay if you have 20 sat and it takes you a few weeks to get to them. Sometimes it takes me weeks to reply to an email, and I don't feel guilty about that anymore. I have various communication channels set up for clients and for team, and to make sure that people do get a prompt response. But there's certain things in business where it does have a delay, and sometimes you just got to accept what your capacity is. And if that's not maybe having your emails on top of them every single hour of the day, then that's okay. Number three of things that you can stop feeling guilty about in your business is you don't need to think that you have to be further ahead than you are. Like you don't need to feel this like guilt around, oh, I should be at this point, but I'm not. So I'm not as good, or I'm not good enough, or I can't charge X amount of money. Like, you need to try and detach from that. You don't need to worry about this idea of like, I've constantly got to be more successful, or I've constantly got to be better. Because yeah, that is important sometimes, but you don't need to carry this guilt. And I totally get it, right? There is a guilt. I feel it from people, and I've definitely had moments of it where you feel like you should be further ahead than you are, but for whatever reason your journey has just decided that that isn't the case. And like for me, I especially feel it as someone with a chronic illness. Like, if you've got to like rest, or you've got to take 2 months out, or you've got to like take a week out, and you're like, oh man, I want to get going and I want to keep moving, and it's like it can feel like you're just constantly bashing against one thing to the next, and you're like, oh, and you get annoyed. But you don't need to feel guilty about that. Like, it's okay. Like, it's all right to just be exactly where you are and be comfortable with that. Number 4 really leans into this. And number 4 is that you don't need to feel guilty about not earning enough. That is something that I think a lot of people worry about. They think, I'm not earning enough. Like, I don't earn enough to take up this space, or I don't earn enough to speak here, or do this thing, or be connected with these people. And like, I really want to remind you that like that is not the case. We live in a society that is pushing that narrative, but we're also living in a society where many industries are completely flawed by false numbers, false narratives that don't correlate with the outcomes that they say they do. And what I mean by that is like, we need to shift this idea that people who earn lots of money therefore have to be the best at what they do, or they have to be the best at their craft, because that simply isn't the case. It's often just they're very good marketers, or they have various ethical or unethical, ways of doing business. So you don't have to feel guilty for not earning enough, or for not earning more money than you do. You don't need to feel guilty for not wanting to earn more either. It is okay for you to choose an amount of money you wish to earn, and for that to be enough. And I hope that gives you the permission slip you might need. Number 5, thing you can stop feeling guilty about in your business is not doing enough. So many people I speak to will say, I feel quite guilty that I don't do enough in my business. And that's such a difficult one, right? Because there's always stuff we can be doing. Some people, if they're in a growth phase, they do need to be doing loads. But some of you might be at a stabilization point. Some of you might be at a kind of maintenance section. Some of you will be at a point where you're just enjoying what you've built. And what I want to emphasize there is enjoyment. You need to have enjoyment, not guilt. You don't need to feel guilty about you're not doing enough. You can enjoy the success that you have created for yourself. Number 6. Got another number 6. That was number 6. Okay. You can stop feeling guilty about not having team members to support you, or not being a big enough business, or a corporate enough business, or a proper business, whatever that means, right? There's no definition of a proper business, is there? Like, there's no need. Like, for so many of you, there's no need to have team members. That's fine. You can make a 6-figure a year business with no team members. You can make £1 million a year business with no team members. Like, the idea that the size of your team correlates to how good of a business owner you are, or how successful you are, is so outdated and isn't true. And so don't feel like because you're an I and not a we, like maybe it's like I do everything because I'm also the accountant and the this and the that and the that. Like, don't let that feel guilty. Don't feel like, oh, I'm less than, or I'm not as good as someone else. Like, that is not true at all. In fact, I think it's really cool to not have loads of team members. I talk about this, but if I didn't have a chronic illness and I didn't have the restrictions that I do have on myself, I wouldn't have as big of a team as I do. I only have the size of the team that I do because I need to in order to be able to do the things that I want to do, given the time and energy, capacity, and space that I have. like, don't compare yourself to other people and then feel guilty in the process, because like you don't know the ins and outs of like why they have certain support, or what that means for them, or what their profit margin then is, or how much they're paying for that. Like, you focus on what makes sense for you, but remove the guilt from it, because you don't need to feel guilty at all. Those were the 6 things that I had come up with, of like 6 things you don't need to feel guilty about in your business. And those are definitely ones that clients have definitely resonated with. I've definitely resonated with. So hopefully it gives you a kind of permission slip. There was another one that someone mentioned to me the other day that I thought I'd share with you, because I think this is a popular one. Someone said they no longer feel guilty for saying no to certain client requests. So what they mean by that is like, sometimes clients, and you might have this, where they'll come to you with ideas or thoughts, or like they'll want to like do something, or it's like, oh, let's do this. And what they were saying to me is that they now don't feel guilty about turning around to the clients and saying, no, I don't think you should do that, or no, we're not going to do this, and this is why X, Y, and Z. And I thought that was such an interesting thing, because she said previously she had felt guilty, or just wouldn't say no. She'd be like, yeah, of course, no problem, even though she knew that it wasn't really fitting with what they were trying to do, and that they were quite just a client was just quite reactive. And so they said now, like, they will turn around and say no. And I was like, good for you. Like, that is a really positive thing that you can do, and you don't need to feel guilty about. Like, that's really fabulous. I think, and if that was me and I was someone's client, like, I'd love that when they said that. I have also put on Instagram about an hour ago a little poll. I don't know if anybody will have answered, and I thought we could see, has anybody answered? I basically put a poll saying, what did you used to feel guilty about in business but now don't? Have we had any response? Oh, we've had one. Let me read this one, because I think this is interesting. So, this is a great one. Fab. So someone has put, and I said it'd be anonymous, so I won't read their name out, but somebody has popped in this question box and said, taking time out to recharge, my business benefits from it in the long run. What a fabulous thing to share. I think lots of us can resonate with that. I really resonate with that. So she's basically saying she doesn't anymore feel guilty for taking time out of her business to recharge. She understands that her business benefits from it in the long run. I couldn't agree more. And I think so many of us really have learnt that one way or the other, whether it's like rightfully or wrongly, whether they wish to or not. I think that's a fabulous one. I'd love to know, like, please tell me, have you got any, come and have a chat with me about, what do you feel guilty about in your business, or what have you stopped feeling guilty about in your business, or what are you not gonna let yourself feel guilty about anymore? Because I think the more we talk about this, the more we normalize how people feel. And I think that's very important for us to start having these open conversations. Today's episode has been short, but hopefully you've enjoyed it. And I think it's important, even if this has given you just one thing that you are feeling like you've got a bit of a pep in your step, and like thinking, do you know what, actually, yeah, I'm not going to feel guilty about that anymore, then that was a real win for me. So I hope you have gotten something from it. Come and join me next week. If you are in the mood for some more podcast, why don't you go and take a look at the back catalogue? We have a lot of episodes available for you to listen to. There's tons and tons and tons across a variety of different topics. And if you do have any topic requests, feel free to drop me a message on Instagram at may.james_, or you can send an email to support@mayjames.com with the subject line, just put honest business podcast episode idea or request. And I'd love to hear them, because I'm happy, and we're kind of compiling the list of the 2024 episodes to be filmed, and we have a long list, but we're still in the motion of working out what we're going to be recording. So if you have something that you'd like me to cover, I'd love to feature that for you. Take care, have a lovely week, have a lovely day, evening, whatever you're doing, whenever you're listening to this. Look after yourself, take lots of action, be kind. Be kind to yourself. Take care. Bye.